by building teamwork, which is a crucial and major part of the series. By working towards the same goal, players build bonds together. For those that are not aware, Monster Hunter is a video game that focuses on fighting fantastical beasts with ridiculously proportioned weapons, like a giant sword or a cannon as a blaster. In this game, players have the option to play alone or with others. But according to Monster Hunter's own statistics, most players prefer to hunt with others rather than by themselves. Although it has Hunter in the title, the game actually focuses on being nothing more than a glorified animal control worker with a cat sidekick. Except instead of foxes or raccoons, they take care of giant fire-breathing dragons that cause volcanoes to erupt on. The main point of the game series is its gameplay, where players use a series of materials, resources, and parts from previous monsters to craft better armor and weapons to fight with bigger and more powerful monsters. Monster Hunter as a series was released in Japan on March 11th, 2004, by Capcom, the same people to release games like Street Fighter and Resident Evil. The first version was released on PlayStation 2, but was not well known or popular in Japan. But it had a loyal cult following. What truly made the game popular was its PlayStation Portable port of the game, which was released in September 2006 and was called Monster Hunter 2nd Portable, and it allowed those with the console to play the game on the go. This was significant, as many Japanese people had very active lives, especially with going to and from work, which increased its appeal. It also received an update to graphics, and overall fixing possible glitches, which grew the fanbase even more. Later that year, it was released in English and sold in select stores throughout the United States. This began the massive movement towards the community, and it also correlated with the rise of specific internet forums about the game, which grew its popularity even further, exploring secrets and unknown mechanics. The developers of the game were inspired by many video game series like Final Fantasy and other MMORPGs that came before it, which inspired them to make the game feel however they saw fit. The franchise, as a whole, has created an enormous community of over 45 million people worldwide today, according to their sales of their new installment, Monster Hunter World, for PC, PS4, and Xbox. The reason that the game matters is because it encourages teamwork, and that is shown to improve skills related to working well in real-world scenarios such as jobs, where it is required to work with others, which is supported by PsychCentral.com, that supports that video games that have multiplayer functions do in fact help improve teamworking skills. Teamworking skills can also be helped by bringing people together, which Monster Hunter's community does. The game also matters to the fans in Japan that played it. When Monster Hunter came out on the PlayStation Portable, Japan was and still is a very business-oriented country, as many workers in Japan work in a service and industry, according to population totals taken in Japan. Most office workers in Japan take some sort of public transportation, usually a metro, that takes them to where they need to go. According to another survey done by the Japanese Ministry of Transportation, this means that most people have to play on the go if they wish to play video games. So, they needed something portable, which is where Monster Hunter Portable came in and gained popularity as it rose to the charts, selling over 1 million copies to this day. Unlike its predecessor, which was known as Monster Hunter the First or Monster Hunter G in the West, only sold 200,000. Furthermore, Monster Hunter 2nd Portable G was one of the first ones to be westernized and sold as well in America and Europe in English, which truly widened its audience. By the sales number alone, this was a big movement in the history of Monster Hunter. Westernization was a slow movement for Monster Hunter World, as it did not achieve high popularity, which is based off sales in the West. Monster Hunter as a series, and the first Monster Hunter 2nd, was the first version that started chugging along the world in the series today, which was the westernized version. The next game to be westernized in this series was Monster Hunter Tri for the Nintendo Wii. This put them at an advantage as they could get exposure from Nintendo, and the exposure they got. During the release of Monster Hunter Tri, a large marketing campaign for the game was launched, and it was all advertised by a bristly man playing a Scottish Viking, who was dressed as a hunter from the series. He would go out in the real world with large props of monsters and weapons, and interview people about what they thought about them. And he caused hijinks and mayhem throughout the real world with his comically oversized swords and axes. This ad campaign was also released on YouTube, and in 2012, where most of the YouTube community was growing, it was seen and grew more popular. In 2011, many of the memes, such as Rickroll, Grumpy Cat, and many of the obscure ones, were coming out and becoming more popular, which gave more and more exposure to Monster Hunter Tri. With the extra exposure, Monster Hunter Tri sold 960,000 copies, becoming the third best sold third-party game in Japan for the Nintendo Wii. Third-party means, although Nintendo distributes it, it was in fact made by Capcom. After its initial release on the Wii, it was revamped and re-uploaded, but this time for the Nintendo 3DS, and called Monster Hunter Tri Ultimate, which increased its popularity even more, as the Nintendo 3DS offered an online store where players could buy and download games instead of having to go out into the real world and look for them, which they were somewhat elusive to find copies. Although most reviews for the game were largely positive, many complained that the game was too grindy. For those that do not understand, that simply means that one would have to do the same thing over and over again to acquire some sort of reward, or in order to progress through the game. This annoyed some players, as it did not like to repeat the quest for certain items, or in order to progress through a story. On the other hand, however, many did like this aspect of the game, as it makes it harder for them to progress, which is meant to be a more satisfying experience when the players did in fact beat monsters and gather enough materials as to make a set of armor. This was the original intent of Ryozo Tsuchimoto, who has developed all of the games in the series since 2004. So for a while, although they were translating games for players in other languages, they did not make a big move to westernize the feels and references for the Western world like Europe or America. The next game in this series was Monster Hunter 4 and 4 Ultimate for the West. This game also got major coverage on YouTube and had a lot of videos made about it. In 2015, a channel known as Eric's Gaming had over 1 million subscribers and constantly uploaded videos on the series, which, that with ad revenue, gives him a lot of money. Because most views are worth around $1, channels usually had 200,000 views per video. So that adds up to $190,000 per video or so. The fourth installment in the series also introduced the more story aspect to the game, and that made for some more interesting gameplay, as players had to solve the mystery of a mysterious virus caused by an elder dragon, which this aspect of the game interested players instead of them just being a glorified exterminator. This is the first time that I had experience with the series, and it had a large fan base when I started playing it. The multiplayer function was very much active, and I could interact with people from all over the world and learn about their culture, which I did. So by finding players that shared a common interest in me and the things that I did within the game, I was able to learn about cultures I did not even know existed before I played the game. I learned about Japan, France, Germany, and Spain, all from a simple game. This was further enhanced by the fact that I was able to play the latest game in the series, Monster Hunter World, which had a Discord community around it. For those that don't know, Discord is essentially another form of social media that encourages those who play video games to form communities and communicate with one another. This is where I met so many like-minded people and had conversations with them about something we were all interested in, which was Monster Hunter. To this day, I still play with friends from all over the world. Now let's go ahead and answer some questions from someone that would like to play Monster Hunter, but does not know about the community or the general ideas. This is Ryan Bate of River City Science Academy.
Hello.
So what kind of questions do you have?
So, to you, what makes the game so appealing to play?
Well, the story of Monster Hunter World is all focused on the discovery of a new land full of new creatures to research. And instead of just going out and hunting them because they're just being another bother, you can capture them in order to study their biology and learn more about their environment that they are based in. The game also provides more lore for the monsters and a deeper sense of a full environment. This was done when the developers of the game went to Indonesia and Japan in order to get sound samples, art references, and just to get a general feel for the setting of the game.
Interesting. Why should I, someone who has no experience playing the games, play it? I am interested in the games, but I would like to know more about the process of playing with others.
Well, there are many servers within Discord, which is a free-to-use platform. Also, there is a voice chat function in-game that you can use to communicate with others.
Can you tell me more general information on the newest installment, Monster Hunter World?
Well, the game is available for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and also PC. It is worth around $60 or so, and has a lot of free downloadable content which you can get from Steam.
I hear that the game has a very big learning curve and that others find it hard to get into because it doesn't offer you tutorials. How would I solve such problems?
Well, I have already completed the game and would be glad to teach you the ropes. But for those that do not have me, you can easily find many good online tutorials on the game and other mechanics that are not very well fleshed out in the game. You can also find hidden mechanics within the game by looking up tutorials.
So, why does this specific game in particular matter so much, and what is this one? What kind of impact has it had on the series as a whole?
Monster Hunter World, being the latest in the series, had some impactful effects, not only becoming the highest selling game Capcom has ever released, it also did that in the first year of its sale. And it is still going strong with the new downloadable content or DLC, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which added an entire other storyline and many, many, many more monsters to fight. The game matters because it brings people together to form a cooperative community that is supportive in my experience with it, and it's also very global, allowing people to show that their own part of the world through voice chat in a game. To wrap things up, Monster Hunter as a series has come extremely far in the last 15 years of its existence. It has created entire communities around it, and has also brought about good sales for Capcom in order for them to keep making more installments in the series. Although I am a big fan of the series, it is important to know that Monster Hunter is not for everyone. It takes dedication to learn it and also to master it. But if somebody wishes to join, they will have a community that is willing to help them through it all. Have a good one, and hunt on.